Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Coach Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a great show for you today. Got a great guest. Going to bring him on in just a moment. I believe this is his third time on the show. Looking forward to catching up with him and seeing what he's got going on in his world these days. As always, you can find this and the back episodes of our podcast at our website, ordinarymarathoner.com. You can also find us over at the aggregators, places like Stitcher and TuneIn and iTunes, of course. If you like the show, hit that subscribe button. Never miss a new episode that way. You can also check us out over on YouTube. Been posting all of our podcasts over on YouTube. If it's just me, you just likely get a video of me chatting away. But sometimes when I do these, if I can get our guest in studio, it's great. But if not, you're probably just going to get the audio version on YouTube over there. But head on over to our YouTube channel as well. Hit that subscribe button there. I think we're kind of stuck at 90 subscribers lately. I'd love to have 10 more, get to that 100 mark. So help us out if you can. You can find our Facebook group over on Facebook called Ordinary Marathoners. It's a closed discussion group. You got to add yourself to it. We'll put you right through, though. You can join the conversation right away. Or be a lurker if you want. Doesn't matter to me. Whichever you prefer. But a really great group of people. Very supportive. Very encouraging people over there. What else we got? Our Twitter feed is at Ord Marathoner. ORD Marathoner. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. We can get the conversation going on over there as well. Ordinary Marathon doesn't start till next spring, but we're doing a few giveaways. Love for you to just head on over to ordinarymarathon.com, our new webpage. Hit that register now button for 2020 and get on the list. We got a giveaway coming in August or September from Brian Burke. He's putting together, as we speak, he's putting together a pretty cool metal rack, for an Ordinary Marathoner themed metal rack. Can't wait to see what he's got in store for us and get involved. Head on over there. Remember, it's all for a charitable cause. We're also putting Team Ordinary together. That's right. We're going to do more of a team concept in the next few months. There'll be more info on that going forward. But for now, just, put that in the back of your mind. Let it stew, let it swirl around a little bit. Team Ordinary sounds pretty cool. It's going to be. So, I can't wait to roll that out. We're going to get that up and running probably in a month. I'm guessing a month from now. We'll see how that works out. All right. Without further ado, let me bring in today's guest. He is a fellow podcaster. He's been coaching for quite some time. We're going to talk about that a little bit, I think, towards the back end of the interview. We'll bring him right in. He does the DizRuns podcast. He's also organizing a virtual race this summer called the Diz Days of Summer. Denny Krahe, welcome back to the show.
Scott, good to catch up a little bit. Glad to be back. Thanks for keeping the door open for me.
Yeah, I think is this 3? I
think this is 3.
I think so too. So I think I had our I don't know if you know Ben Hinton. He's one of our guests. He's a returning guest. I had him on last week, and I think he was here for number 3. He might have been tied for the lead with 3. So you just tied him. There you go.
Rarefied air up here.
So how things going over at DizRuns? What have you been up to? What how's the podcast going? Fill me in, man.
Things are going. It's it's one of those things where I don't know if you've experienced this at all, but it's like you blink your eye and it's like, damn, like there's some time has passed. I mean, shoot, from just the times that we've, it feels like we haven't been not talking to each other for that long, but it's like it's been a year plus since we did the old swapperoo and you were on my show and I was on your show. And
I just saw that on Skype too. When I called you, it says like the last time you talked, it was like you last talked a year ago. I'm like, really? It doesn't feel like it's that long.
Yeah, time flies. So we, over on the podcast side of things for me, we just crossed the 5-year mark, which is pretty crazy. July 1st was 5 years of doing the show, and so it's kind of one of those moments where you kind of reflect back a little bit and be like, wow, like it feels like it's been forever, and it feels like it's been like 2 weeks, and somewhere in the middle it's been 5 years. But it's been a blast, and changing things up a little bit, which we can talk about. Nothing drastic, but a couple little changes, little tweaks, and just try to keep on keeping on. Well,
I think it's part of you now. Like you're probably before you were Denny, and now you're Diz. Right?
Yeah, definitely in certain circles, that's absolutely the case.
So, you mentioned changes and some new things that you were trying out. And I want to talk a little bit about your virtual race that you have upcoming. Because I know this is sort of the first time that you're dipping your toe in the virtual race arena. You're working a lot with, I believe, Scott Frassard over at Forever Home Running, who's my dude. He's my guy.
Yeah.
And great guy. And so I figured, let's have you on. Let's talk a little bit. If there's one thing, I think it's kind of interesting here because kind of the two areas I thought we could talk about most today. I've done, 3 virtual races, so I have a little background on that. And I just also got my coaching certification, which you have a lot of background on that. So I thought, a little give and take, a little trade secrets here and there, make for a good podcast. So, let's just start with the why. Why, what made you decide to get the community together and do a virtual race?
So I've had a few folks over the years, and I don't mean this like people are knocking down my door. I mean, it's literally been 1 or 2 people over the course of 5 years that have been like, dude, you should organize a virtual race at some point. And I was just like, yeah, I should. And then I start to maybe pretend to look into it. And it's like, gosh, there is too much. Like I don't have the time to put all of this together and try to figure out all the back end stuff, which
it's hard.
Yeah, you sign up for a race and you may not think that there's that much for a virtual. Oh, it's just a virtual race. I run it whenever I want, wherever. Like there's a lot of back end moving parts to get medals and bibs and all of the things that go into it. And I was just like, I just don't have time at all. And then I was working with our mutual friend, Mr. Frassard, for a little bit, and he was on my podcast, and we were talking and talking about Forever Home and what he does with the virtual races, and kind of got an idea of like, well, if I ever do one of these things, I now have a guy.
He's the guy.
I have a guy.
You have the guy.
I have the guy who can handle all the back end, and all I got to do is not all, but the big part of what I have to do is put the word out. And just trust that he knows how to set it all up and how to take care of the loose ends and what kind of things that I would have never thought of to take care of. He's on it.
It's kind of nice to get that, that like all that mailing is like, it sounds like such an overwhelming task, but he's got it. There's a science to it and he's got it down and that's what he provides. And it's a good biz for him.
Oh, it's great. And I'm happy to pay the little, the percentage of the fee to let him take care of all that. Happy to do it. And so, kind of saw that piece kind of fall into place. And then I don't remember, I think I had kind of planned, but hadn't made it official yet when I had talked to Scott that I was going to do my first charity run, which is another thing that you have a lot more experience in than I do. I've never done a race as a charity runner. And so kind of decided that 2020, January 2020, I'm going to do the Goofy Challenge at Walt Disney World, which is just up the street from me. So it's convenient. It's local. Yep. But I wanted to do the Goofy Challenge, which is the Saturday half marathon, Sunday full marathon. It will have been 10 years since I ran my first marathon. My first marathon was 2010 Disney World Marathon. I'm not going to say never, certainly not going to say never, but I'm kind of over Disney marathons or Disney races, at least as far as running them. I'm a Disney fan. I enjoy going to watch the races, to spectate the races. But I wouldn't mind branching out, running a few different races and not just always falling back to Disney because it's convenient. So, long story moderately shorter. I wanted to do the Goofy Challenge. This is the 10-year anniversary of the original Goofy Challenge. Anybody who runs Disney races knows that the 5 and 10-year anniversaries of races, those medals are usually a little bit fancier. Yeah. So I was like, well, this is a good year to do it.
So I know the Dopey Challenge. What's the before we get too heavy? What's the Goofy Challenge? So
Goofy is half of the Dopey basically. So the Dopey is 5K, 10K, half and full. The Goofy is just the half and the full. So. Which I don't know. You can make it not half it.
You just took out the 2 shortest ones, right?
Right. Which for me are the 2 most painful ones anyway. So get rid of those ones and just cruise. Right. But so Goofy's always been my favorite Disney character. I've always wanted to do that race. And so actually this would be the 15th year. Sorry, because the first year that I did it 10 years ago was the 5th year anniversary of it, and they had the fancy 5-year. I was like, oh, that medal's awesome, but there's no way I could have done that. So. just kind of the stars were aligning. And I was just like, I just kind of decided I was going to do it this year anyway. And the last few times that I've done Disney races, it's been a couple of years. It was always that situation where they would sell out like immediately.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I really want to do it, but I'm not going to set my alarm, and I'm not going to, make sure that I'm like all set and ready and banging the refresh button to make sure that I get in. And because it's an anniversary year, I was like, Goofy might sell out quick. So I'll just do it as a charity. It'll take all the stress off of the sign up part. I kind of feel like I've got enough of a following that like I can raise the money. That's not going to be that big of a deal. So the sponsor of the marathon weekend at Disney, or the charity partner, I guess not the sponsor, but the charity partner of the marathon weekend at Disney is Team in Training, or the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Team in Training as the charity running component of it. So I just decided, hey, I'm gonna hitch my wagon to them and to that organization. It's not that I have a big personal connection to leukemia and lymphoma. I've got cancer connections with friends and family. Of course, I mean,
Sure.
Who doesn't have a cancer connection at this point? But nothing specific to leukemia and lymphoma. But other than they're the main charity partner of the race, I said, hey, let's rock and roll with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So signed up with them, and then kind of got the inspiration or the idea, kind of things, the worlds collided, where it was like, I'm not. One of the things that's held me back from doing the charity running is the whole asking for money scenario, which I'm still doing some of that. But it's like, I want to do something beyond just, hey, would you be willing to donate? And so I was like, hey, let's do a virtual challenge. You call it a virtual race, virtual challenge, whatever you want to call it. Semantics is the difference. But like, here's something that would be fun, that people are actually getting something from, beyond just the hey, I contributed to the cause, which obviously is important. That's the main driver of it. But hey, let's have some fun at the same time. Let's make this a two-way transaction instead of just you helping me run this race and helping support the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Like, let's have something that goes back to you as well. So I was just like, talk to Scott. We got our things lined up, and we're kicking off in a couple weeks.
So from my perspective, I've done a few of these races myself. The virtual race put them on, and you mentioned the charity being one component of the race itself, and I would say that I was skeptic number one about virtual races when it became when it was like a thing. It's like, I run every weekend. Why would I need to do a virtual race just to say that I ran with somebody and give someone money for me to do what I'm going to do on the weekend anyway? And so obviously I've been doing these races for a long time. So it's like, I had to come up with reasons why. So what I recognized, and we're going to put you through the test a little bit, was 4 specific areas where you add value for a virtual race. I think you check all the boxes, so I don't think this is going to be very difficult. So I'm not putting you on the spot too much.
Here's hoping. Yeah.
So actually, number 3 on the list was charity, which you have thusly checked off. So you're down to 3.
Yes.
So number one,
right.
number one, I think everyone likes to get a medal. Everyone likes a little swag. Everyone likes a little race packet. What did you guys put together for that?
So we have a medal that is ridiculous from the specs I've seen from the first iterations and whatnot. So the title, or the name, like you mentioned, the Diz Days of Summer. So it's kind of playing off the Dog Days of Summer theme. In August, you don't really want to get your long runs in, especially if you're training for like a Chicago kind of early October race where it's like your miles are starting to creep up in August, but it's still hot. So playing off of that theme, the medal is it's unmistakably me, which is like my face. If you know
I
me,
saw the
I've
picture.
either got
It's
a hat
pretty good.
on. Yeah, I've got a hat on. Probably 75% of my waking moments, and the other 25% I've got like a running buff on or something like that. So like I've always got something on my side. That it's me in the swimming pool, hat on, sunglasses on top of my hat, which is also a pretty common place for me to lose my sunglasses, right on my forehead there. And just your typical summer scenes. There's a beach ball, a fruity drink, the grill's going. Like it's just your summer, and it's got. I've said that the abs on me on the medal may or may not be drawn to scale. The dude is jacked, and I wish that I had the abs that I have on the medal. But
that's what you pay for SART for, right? That's
exactly. That was not me insinuating I should have crazy abs like that. They just happened like that. So it is a beast of a medal. It is apparently big. It is heavy. And so
he does a great job with the medals. I tell you what, people have commented on the medals that they get for our races too, and it's like, for a small race, and forgive me, I forget how much it cost. I did register, by the way. I am registered.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But you spend $25-$30, whatever it is, on a race, and you kind of you just expect it's mostly donation, and it's not really, you're not really going to get much back. And then you get something that's impressive. And it makes it worthwhile. So that was number one, was the swag. So number two on the list is just kind of like general giveaways, things that you have to do to give away to your folks to make them excited. Now, we at the Ordinary Marathon, we do a lot of like raffles. That's kind of like our thing, where we reach out and we get gifts. But it seemed like you kind of went a different route with this. And you may have raffles. I don't know. I have no idea what you have planned. We're kind of hitting this dry. So, but I know you have some stuff. You had quite a bit of stuff that you were unloading on, and I hate to say unloading. I should say, you are generously, making available to your racers. So
I trying to keep things as simple, low cost on postage, shipping, all that kind of stuff. Went the digital swag route, which the first time I hear that, I pretty much roll my eyes and think it's just going to be little dumpy discount codes or something like that. Where I'm not really getting anything from it unless I'm buying something and maybe I can save 5% from whichever company kicked in a little 5% here and there. So instead of that,
which has value in its own right, but it's not. But it's not
if it's something that you actually want.
Right.
And so, I don't mean to talk bad on that. It's just
I don't want to stump in any of your sponsors if No.
Actually, I don't have anything like that's going out. What I'm doing is calling in some favors. So over 5 years of podcasting, I've talked to no shortage of various coaches and personal trainers and nutrition folks and just all kinds of people whose their jobs, their area of expertise is around helping people, health, fitness, running, things like that. So I've been calling. I still have several more I need to get finalized deals from. But basically, what I'm doing is calling in favors for anything that folks have that digital products that they're willing to kick in. So courses, ebooks, video stuff, demos, training like whatever, all manner of stuff. We've got different training plans, recovery guides. What else? I'm kicking in the audio version of my book, which is literally unavailable anywhere else. Like it's not a thing.
Now, is that something that you recorded on your own?
I'm recording it and it's going out and it's only
that's impressive,
for now,
man.
only available to the people that have registered. So like I said, I mean, it's all manner of stuff and I should have had a list of all the different things, but there's a bunch of strength training guides and like I said, training plans, recovery stuff, nutrition stuff, just a whole host of things from anybody that wanted to that was willing to kick in, whether it's like I said, any type of digital program. So it's not some tester, it's not some trial thing. Literally everybody who signs up gets access to everything. There may be some things that maybe a 5K training plan, you're not training for the 5K. So that's not really your thing. But if there's something in there that you like, it's the full version. Nobody's holding anything back. And so the goal, and I think we're gonna get there. We're not quite there yet. Still, like I said, finalizing a few things from some folks, but is to have over $150 worth of value of digital products, digital courses. That you get for again free. It's no extra strings attached, nothing like that. So trying to make that again as worthwhile as possible to as many people as possible.
Which I think makes great sense, and I think you've done a great job putting that together. Which brings us to the last requirement, which is it's sort of like this is sort of the throwaway. This is the one that you have to have. You have to have great people that go and participate and are willing to participate and are willing to sort of engage in the actual race itself, and as one community and be together and all kind of pitch in to have fun. Which I kind of like hesitate to say this a little bit, but I do feel like. Your group and my group have a lot in common, and the things you do and the things I do, you'd almost think that we'd be rivals, but it's completely not that way. But I think you do have a great group of people over there, and I think the way you set this thing up, what are you expecting in terms of like I know you mentioned something about, setting a goal and then trying to reach that goal during the race. How are you going about, what's the sense you're getting from people who have registered?
So I've had a few people trickle in as far as what their goal is going to be or their challenge. So like I said, it's a little bit of semantics whether you want to call it a challenge or a race, but I didn't want to pick a certain distance that you had to do in order to feel like you could sign up. I wanted to make it as open to anybody as possible. So the wording is intentional. It's a virtual challenge. So you have 2 weeks. The challenge goes for 2 weeks. Although if you want to color outside the lines a little bit for a good cause, I'm not worried about if you start a little late, finish a little later, or whatever. Basically, it's up to each person. You pick what your challenge is going to be. So it could be something as simple as doing just making sure you get all your normal runs in that would be scheduled. So if you run 3 times a week, you run 6 times. Get your 6 runs in during the challenge. It could be a certain mileage. Maybe you want to push yourself a little bit. I'm going to do a 50-mile week. I've never done a 50-mile week before, or a 20-mile week. Whatever would be pushing each individual person. That's what I want to do. I've got some folks that are kind of in taper mode for trail races and stuff that are happening towards the end of that. And so their challenge is something that I know at least one person is kicking around is the idea of actually like doing a good dedicated taper and not getting antsy and doing too much. So like that, the challenge is to.
It's like a reverse challenge. It's like a
yeah. And it could even go kind of non-runty but more tangential to running. So it could be something like incorporating yoga twice a week or 3 times a week or whatever. It could be in the kitchen preparing more meals instead of eating at restaurants as much. Strength training, like literally anything that would be a challenge to help move you in the right direction towards your goals, whether it's running or something tangential to your running. That's what it's all about. And so actually, in the next day or two as we're recording this, so probably by the time it's out, I'm going to have a list together in my Facebook group of like, what's your challenge? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And let everybody, if they want it, they can post it there. They have that public accountability. And I know there's some people that are like, gosh, I need to think of a challenge. So hopefully that'll help spur some ideas as well, as far as helping to brainstorm to see some other people's challenges and what they're setting forth to do during those 2 weeks.
Gotcha. Now we mentioned it was 2 weeks. Are there specifically 2 weeks? Do you have the dates already planned?
Yeah, the official dates are starting Sunday, August the 11th, and then wrapping up on Saturday, August the 24th. So those 14 days. And I'm my challenge, at least my challenge, if we get there, I'm definitely going to do 26.2 as in Florida in August for my challenge. That's what's going to happen for sure. And to try to sweeten the pot a little bit, if we get to 100 people signed up by the time that this kicks off on August the 11th, then I will. I even hate to say this. I'm not going to do another treadmill. Not going to do another treadmill marathon. I did that one already as my first.
I remember that.
And that was as miserable as you probably would think it would be. But I'm going to do a run streak. So I'm going to run every day of the 2 weeks, with the 26.2 being the last day of the 2 weeks. And that might not sound like a lot. I am for myself personally, very anti run streak. I like my days off. I feel better when I don't run every day. I usually run 5 days a week. Usually take Sunday pretty much completely off. Wednesday more of a cross training yoga kind of day. But as I said on the treadmill, I'm willing to suffer for the support. So we get 100 people signed up. I will run 14 days in a row, which is probably the longest streak I've ever done, and cap it off with a marathon, just to put the icing on the cake there.
All right. So just to let listeners know, how do I go about, obviously I know because I've already registered, but I'm just trying to make this a nice little softball for you. How do I go about registering? Where can I find the links to get registered?
So the easiest way to get there is to just go to DizRuns.com, DizRuns.com /DDOS, which stands for Diz Days of Summer, but nobody needs to spell all that out. So DizRuns.com /DDOS, Delta Oscar Sierra, for those of you that speak the whatever kind of alphabet that is called, but makes it clear. And that'll actually redirect you to Scott's website, which is where all this is living on Forever Home running. And it'll take you right there, all the information, sign up, and good to go.
Yeah, I do get questions often, actually, when people get redirected to the Forever Home running site, because sometimes they think like, oh, I just clicked this button, it brought me to this place that's not where I'm supposed to be. But don't worry, guys, it is where you're supposed to be. Scott will take care of you.
And it's just a lot easier than saying foreverhomerunning.com/blah, blah, 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 like
and
57 words.
Yeah, and just to to feel even better about it all when you register is that Forever Home Running actually for every person that registers for their races, they actually kick money back to an animal charity to save certain animals, and he does a great job with that, and I think it's just sort of his life passion to kind of work with animals and save as many animal lives as he can, and he does a great job over there. So just worth mentioning,
Yes, absolutely.
So the one thing, this is my segue. That here's my segue for you. The one thing I noticed. So you talked about run streak, and you talked about how you didn't necessarily believe in the run streak concept. And I'm wondering, does that come more from a runner's perspective or a coach's perspective, or both?
Probably a little bit of both. I've dabbled in run streaks before and tried to do them before, and just it. And this is more definitely the running side of it, or the runner side of it, but it just like it kind of gets to, for me at least, it just gets like it just kind of saps a lot of the fun out of it. Like it's something all of a sudden I have to do because I'm trying to do this every single day, and maybe I never went far enough to get over the hump, and maybe I wasn't doing my easy days easy enough, so it was just a built up level of fatigue, and which is kind of the coaching side of things now, to where if I really do them easy and it's just an easy mile, maybe it wouldn't be as much of a thing. But yeah, I just like having a day off, like, and I don't know. It's just what works best for me, I think, but it's been a while since I've tried it, so who knows?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think the longest run streak I ever did was a month, and I think one of the reasons why I stopped was because the last week of every day I had to run at least a mile. That was the rule to get to the next, to count it in the run streak. And that final week that I ran, the full week, I ran a total of 7 miles. So I realized that was, that's kind of the key. Not for me. It is. Some people seem to, some people embrace it, and you see these guys go on run streaks for years and years and years. But I think I'm with you on that. I think it's too fatiguing. It's too much. It takes maybe it's just a certain brain, a certain type of person.
I was going to say, I think for me, it's as much mental that I need the break as anything, of just like, oh, I'm just not running. Like, and that just kind of hits refresh. And then the next day, like I'm chomping at the bit. I can't get out the door fast enough.
Yeah. And I tell you, I think right around that point, or shortly thereafter, when I started training for Ironman, and I started doing a lot of cross training with the bike and the swim. And I found that my running gained more when I did other cross training than if I just did running alone. Now, do you find that? Do you, so I guess I was going to say as a running coach, but I don't even know if I don't know if you're solely a running coach or if you're more than that. But is that something you would prescribe for people as well? Would you prescribe a lot of cross training?
I'm definitely a fan of it. Definitely a proponent of working the body some different ways. Obviously, you've got to balance time and making sure that most everybody's pretty busy, so where do you get the extra time to do these things? And maybe that means to sacrifice an easy 3 miler to get some time on the bike, or some time in the pool, or some time in the weight room, or some time on the yoga mat, or whatever. But all those things are important. All those things contribute. I definitely think and believe, both from myself, the people I work with, and just from studying the body for 15 years now, that being well-rounded is a good thing in our fitness, and having a few less miles to be more well-rounded, to be a better quote unquote, and I say quote unquote because I think runners are athletes, but to be a more well-rounded athlete is gonna serve you well, even if you are running 26 miles or 50 miles or 100 miles. Like, obviously you need time on your feet, you need to build that aerobic base, but having some balance, some stability, some strength, those things are good too. And getting some training where you're not pounding all the time. So getting on the bike, getting swimming, working the muscles a little bit differently, but still working your heart and your lungs, so your cardio is still improving. There's so many benefits to it, and there's just there's not really any drawbacks. Like, so you ran 30 miles this week instead of 40, but you still had the same amount of time training. Like, you're going to come out ahead in the end, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right with that. Now, you mentioned that you've been studying the human body for 15 years. Now, is that for 15 years being just kind of like your actual studying, or is that how long you've been involved in the coaching?
So yeah, it's, I guess, good question. Good to clarify that. So I'm a athletic trainer by trade and graduated from college with my athletic training degree and certification and whatnot in 2004. So I've been, doing the human body injuries, athletes and whatnot since. So I guess you could maybe make the argument I've been studying it since 2000 when I started college. But as
don't
far
sell
as
yourself short
being,
there, man. You need to get all those years in.
Well, yeah, exactly. So 15 plus years going on 20 years before long. But yeah, so that's kind of where I got into the exercise science and kinesiology and all that kind of good stuff. But as far as like the running side of things, the running coaching stuff, that's been going now for about 4 years. I think just about 4 years that I've been coaching, which is crazy because I still have a couple of I guess I still have one athlete that's been with me pretty much since day one.
Wow.
Which is just crazy to think about. But yeah, it's been 4 years, or within plus or minus a month or so, 4 years of coaching runners. So
nice. That's a good deal. So what made you get involved in this line of work? What made you kind of take that step towards like coaching running? Is there that much of a difference in like being an athletic trainer versus being a running coach? What are the benefits, differences, kind of thing? Like, what made you want to go into that line of work?
So at the time, when the podcast started, I was kind of had left the athletic training world a bit and was doing like personal training. So I was was still self-employed, or at that point was self-employed, doing personal training where I would go to like people's houses and work out with them at their, or, put them through their workouts at home, before work, after work, whatever the case might be. And then started the podcast and was just kind of doing this as something for fun. And then, people started asking, do you coach? Do you coach? Because I was kind of hesitant to say yes, like, I'm thinking about it, but I don't have my RRCA certification, so I don't know. And then I started looking into it, and it was like, oh, all this stuff that I've got my undergrad in and 2 years of grad school in. That's all the same stuff that they cover in a weekend course. And I don't say that to knock the RRCA stuff at all, but it's just like, maybe I don't need to go sit through a 2-day course of things that I sat through for 6 years of academic study and real world experience in. So when people started asking after that, I was just like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. Like, let me put some pieces together and, put an email out and just kind of said, hey, thinking about doing this. If there's interest, let me know, and we'll kind of make it work. And there were a handful of people that raised their hand, and that kind of was where things got started. Yeah.
Now, are these relationships like a lot of people generally live near you, or a lot of them virtual, like on a virtual basis? And
it's all virtual. And
okay.
I have had a couple of folks. I do have two currently that do live in town, which is nice, because I do run into them once in a while, but it's when I run into them, it's as a friend relationship, not as a coaching relationship very often, because we might talk running a little bit, but for the most part, like all of my coaching stuff all happens just online. And so there's folks from around the world. I've got right now an American, but living in Egypt. So I got somebody on the continent of Africa. I've got an
just have them do stairs right up the Great Pyramid.
Yeah, right up the pyramids. And I've got somebody right now in South America, which is my first time in Brazil. So first time going down to South America, and I've had folks in Hong Kong. So I've had Asia's crossed off the list. I've had Europe crossed off the list, but don't have anybody in those two continents right now. But it's really cool to be like, wow, I can
global.
Do this little thing. I'm global. We are a global thing. I've had I have some folks in Australia as well. So yeah, literally, I mean every continent but Antarctica. We've either been there or currently are there. And it's and obviously all over the United States.
Yeah, I think it's hard to market in Antarctica. We'll let you slide on that one. So over the course of the last few years, since you've been coaching, since you've been getting involved with all these athletes, what would you say are what are your best moments? What are the ones that say when you kind of look back now and you say, man, this is all worthwhile? Like what makes what are your favorite things that have happened ever since you became a coach?
I mean, it's certainly the success of the folks that I'm working with, when they hit the mark, when things come together on race day and they hit their goal, I've asked other running coaches about this, and I feel like most of us are all in agreement that like we still have our own personal goals for our own running, but those things so pale in comparison. Or like I could care, I wouldn't say I could care less, but I do not care as much about my goals as I do about what my athletes are doing. And so, there's the big ones. There's the athlete that had been setting out to try to qualify for Boston, and finally, after a couple of near misses, everything came together and she nailed it. And getting that text message when she just crossed the finish line, and like I'm hooting and hollering, and my wife's like, "What in the heck is going on?" I was like, "I just got the message from Jen," and she's like, "Oh my gosh, she did it!" So she's all excited, But I don't want to say that and then not say, the person who broke 5 hours recently, and that had been a big goal. Like, it's not just that it was Boston. Like, it was cool that it was Boston because everybody who knows me knows that that's one of my big goals too. But it's like every goal, the first half marathon that somebody finishes, and that's been a goal, something they've been working towards. It's just, it might sound a little bit cliche, but it's like every person's goal is like, obviously it's special to them. It's important to them. And to think that somehow I did something that helped them take the steps necessary to get to that goal and hit it is a pretty cool, pretty cool thing. And sometimes they try to give me too much credit. I just tell them what to do. They're the ones that have to go out and do it. But to play some little role in that, it's a pretty special feeling.
Yeah. And, I'm glad that that's the way you answer, because, as we talked about before the show, I just got my coaching certification, triathlon coaching certification. I'm going to be starting some things up in the next few weeks. And I got to tell you, like, I feel like the more I thought about it, at first it was kind of like a whim, like, all right, let's just get certified and see what happens. And then the more I kept thinking about it, I think for me, my own personal, my best memories of the sport were always the newest achievements. First time I ran a marathon, first time I did a triathlon, those moments were always the best. And the problem is for me is that once you get to the point where it's like, all right, what would be next for me? Like an ultra. And I'm like, man, I don't know that I got that in me. Like that's a lot of work, to get to that next level. But if I could get into a relationship where I could be on someone's team, like sort of the way you were describing, that you get to share in that success in a certain way. And it's kind of like just nice to be along for the ride, and be a team member that's contributing to someone else's success. And I think, the more I think about it, the more I think that, man, that's like a really cool experience and a really cool place to be. And I think that's probably the one thing that I'm looking forward to most.
Yeah, it's one of those feelings. I kind of feel like it's almost like that first time you cross the marathon finish line, or any big goal, any big race like that, where it's like it's such a feeling, but it's so hard to put it into words. And when you're working with that athlete that gives you control and just says, hey, help me do this, and you start to figure stuff out, and you're putting the pieces in place, and something goes a little bit wrong, so you readjust, and they get there. It's just like. It's hard to explain it, but it's, like I said, I try not to take too much credit because I'm just advising and they're actually doing, but, I like to think maybe I had a little bit of hand in some of their success along the way. And it's a really cool thing to be able to say that.
So, since you just said you're just more of the advisor, let me ask you this. Instead of advising the athlete, why don't you advise the coach for a minute and say, if you had any advice, I guess, to give to someone who is just starting out coaching athletes, what would it be from all your years' experience? What would it be to someone just starting out? I'm writing this down.
I'm writing this down. Oh boy, how long do we have? Do we have, how deep in the weeds do you want to go? I think that the one of the things that held me back for a while was, I don't know if it was imposter syndrome or exactly what you want to call it, but was the idea that, like, if I'm not running a 3:15 marathon, who is going to want to work with me? And not that I was hiding what my PRs were at the time. I think at that point my PR was about a 4:08 in the marathon, something just north of 4 hours. I wasn't trying to hide it, but I certainly wasn't advertising that I'm a quote unquote only a 4 hour and 8 minute marathon guy.
I think that's pretty fast. I'd be very impressed, but go ahead.
But yeah, and again, speed and distance, everything like that is always all relative. So to somebody that's fast, to somebody that's painfully slow, and somebody that's a really long, could never run that far. And some people are like, God, that's just a warm up for the 100-miler, But I wasn't as open about, this is who I am. This is what my running experience is. This is what my professional experience is. As far as I'm more of a science guy than this is what worked for me, so this is what's going to work for you. It's more of I'm more of no, let's look at the body, let's look at physiology, let's look at kinesiology, let's make sure that we're taking care of the engine, if you will, so that you can make progress towards your running goals. And I was a little bit hesitant to lean into that, and now it's man, that's who I am. If you don't think that I can help you, because my PR now 4 years later is 3:58, then be on. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but just that's who I am. So I think my advice is lean into who you are, lean into your ordinary marathon mystique, and don't shy away from whatever your PRs are, whatever your experience is, because really ultimately all you have to be to help somebody is 1 step ahead, 2 steps ahead of where they are, so if somebody wants to hire you to help them reach the Olympic trials, then you might know how to do it, but you haven't done that. As long as they're clear with that, that's fine. But if they're just saying, hey, can you help me run my first triathlon? You've definitely been, lean into that. Absolutely, I can do that. So just lean into who you are. Don't be don't hesitate to try to hide any deficiencies that you perceive that you might have, because most people aren't worried about that kind of thing. And those that are kind of whatever, they can find that ex-Olympian or ex-world-class athlete to coach them, and you don't want to have to deal with their demands anyway, probably, for somebody like that. So
yeah, I hear you. I think that's great advice. And I got to tell you, that's one of the things that I always think of is I see people talk about what is their coaching philosophy? What is their, things of that nature, that sort of those open-ended questions. And it seems like that's something you learn over time, and that's something you only get better at with experience. I do remember I have experience coaching football back in the day. And I remember thinking man, all these guys act like they know exactly what they're talking about, and half of them are just full of it. Mm-hmm. and it doesn't take a lot to act like you know what you're talking about. Not that that's what I would be, but I feel and it's almost like it's sort of an intimidation. If everyone thinks they know, if everyone acts like they know exactly what they're talking about, maybe you don't. But I feel like that comes, after coaching football for a year or two, I realized wow, this guy's full of it and that guy's full of it. And, it's all about kind of taking your experiences and learning it and, using your experience to sort of add to your knowledge base and develop your own sort of philosophy and stature, which it seems like that's what you've done over the years. And I think that was really good advice.
Thank you. And then, to kind of add on that a little bit, not only do you kind of figure out your philosophy as you go, but things change a little bit. You learn something new, or you tried something. I like to try things on myself first, and then before I start pushing them too hard. But for example, about a year and a half ago, I started going real deep into heart rate training. Yeah. I was, the science looked good, but I was kind of skeptical on the whole idea of running 11-minute pace, 10-minute pace, 12-minute pace for your easy runs, and thinking that would help you get faster. But it's I'm going to do it for a year, see what happens. And now I annoy people with how I'm just do it. It works. But it's I didn't push that on anybody until I was willing to try it first. But now it's that's shifted my philosophy a bit to where I was always an easy, do your easy runs easy, but let's hammer a hard workout once or twice a week. And now I'm once or twice doing a hard workout every 4 to 6 weeks, that's plenty. And people it's a hard pill to swallow and wrap your head around how that's going to work. But I've run my fastest times. Not that I'm fast, but again, relative speaking, but I've gotten faster, stronger, felt better than I ever have. And I'm running just as much, but I'm running easy instead of hard. And it makes such a difference in how I feel. So again, philosophies change and how you approach things change, and you just kind of learn it as you go, and don't be that football coach that's acting like you know everything. This is what I know. This is what my experience tells me. But be open, or at least I would like to be open that, hey, there's more than one way to get there. And so, this is just my preferred way, but it's not the only way.
And I think too is, situations arise and like you said, things change and your athletes are going to have questions. And, saying I don't know and then going to find the answers, or at least looking at the answers, if not like what you do with heart training, actually personally getting involved and checking it out for yourself. I think that's something, when I look back at my history of the coaches that I've had in other sports, like I would respect that more than than the sort of like rigid, I'm right, you're wrong type philosophy. And I think obviously, I don't prescribe to that. Neither do you. But I think it's definitely, it's something that your athletes appreciate in the long run is when if you just say, I don't know, and we'll find out, we'll figure this out. We'll try to find the best answer for you and for the athlete. I think it makes a lot of sense. What do we miss today?
I don't know.
Anything else?
There's always things. There's
no more books for you or what?
Book number 2 has begun. It has begun. It has begun like I don't even think I got 1,000 words in it yet. So we're still at the very, very baby infant stages. But
you have like a frame, like a framework. I don't
have a frame
outline,
yet, but I've got the outline. Yeah, I've got the outline. Marathons and metaphors coming soon-ish.
We'll have to have you on for number 4. That'll be number 4.
Yes.
That sounds awesome. Where can we find you on social media? Give us all the handles and the Facebook and all that good stuff.
Try to keep it simple. Everything's pretty much DizRuns. DizRuns on Instagram and Twitter. If you search the DizRuns tribe, I think is what we're technically called on Facebook. That'll take you to the Facebook group. There's also the DizRuns.com page or whatever, but that's, don't mess around with the page. Just come join the party in the Facebook group. Just DizRuns.com. DizRuns on podcast apps of choice, and I should pop right up. DizRuns Radio is right there, 750 something episodes strong.
Awesome. Congratulations, guys. Don't also forget DizRuns.com/DDOS to register for the Diz Days of Summer. See what you did there, DDOS. I like it. Thanks again for coming on, Diz. We'll have to get you back on for when the book comes out. I can't wait for the virtual run. I'm looking forward to participating. Wish you all the best.
I appreciate it, Scott. Thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit about the challenge, and appreciate all that you do. And thanks for the opportunity.
You too, as well, man. All right, we're gonna call it a day for today. I'm gonna try to get this one out Tuesday night. Hopefully, you guys will all be waiting for it. I'll definitely get it out before I head out to Lake Placid this weekend. Always remember, every day is an ordinary day unless you make it extraordinary. So get after it, guys.
Remember to like our video and subscribe to our channel.